Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Michelle Bailey.
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Joyce Phillips.
You are most welcome, and I'm glad that we are here. This is Sabata Moletsani from South Africa.
So, welcome everyone to A Mother's Son. And we're going to be looking through the eyes of our host today, Dr. Joyce Phillips and Pastor Sabata and myself, as you hear the answers to some questions that are not spoken of in the Bible. Memories and heartfelt reflections about the women who played one of the most important roles in his life, his mother. And we will be introducing to you, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to again the special segment, and it will be a mother's son, voices from the Bible, where we bring Asian heroes to life and hear their stories firsthand. Today, we have a very special guest, a man chosen by God to confront kings, part seas, and lead an entire nation to freedom. From the burning bush to Mount Sinai, he walked with God in ways few ever have. Please give us a warm welcome to the great prophet, lawgiver, and servant of the Lord, Moses. So let's go ahead and get started today. Again, we're going to go ahead and we're going to improvise what Moses' answers would be to the questions that his mothers would ask him. We're going to start with giving a little bit of background on who Moses is.
Greetings to everyone again. So, Moses was a son that was born during the trials when the children were killed. Like the birth in the when you read chapter number 1 and number 2 of the book of Exodus, you learn about how Israel was enslaved in Egypt and how Pharaoh ordered all the Hebrew baby boys to be killed. We also learn that Moses was born to a Hebrew woman named Jochebed. She hid him for 3 months, and the main reason to do that was to save him, and she placed him in a basket in the Nile River. You can imagine about the crocodiles and other alligators that might have eaten him there. That is Moses' early life. And we look at Pharaoh's daughter found Moses as a baby and adopted him, unknowingly hiring his own real mother, Moses' real mother, to nurse him. And Pharaoh's daughter found the baby and had his mother to actually nurture him and make him grow up. That is the grace there. And Moses grew up as a prince in Egypt, but he knew that he was a Hebrew because I believe his mother taught him that he was. That is just a short version of Moses' birth and early life.
As a young man, we realized that Moses saw an Egyptian who was beating a Hebrew slave, and he killed the Egyptian. When Pharaoh found out, Moses fled to the desert of Midian, where he became a shepherd and married Zipporah.
The burning bush. God appeared to Moses on a burning bush that was not consumed by the fire. God told Moses to return to Egypt and free his people, the Israelites. Moses was hesitant, but God assured him he would be with him and gave him signs to perform.
Yeah, and we also realize on chapter number 5 to 12 that Moses and his brother Aaron confronted Pharaoh with the words that God gave to him. Like the subject or the main thing was to let my people go. So Moses has to stand up and say, "Let my people go." And we realize that Pharaoh refused. So God sent 10 plagues in Egypt. For example, the water turned into the blood. There was frogs in Egypt, and darkness, death of the firstborns in Egypt as well. We also see that the final plague led to the Passover when the Israelites were spared from death by putting lamb's blood on the doorpost.
The Exodus and the Red Sea miracle. This is in Exodus 13 and 14th chapter. Pharaoh finally let the Israelites go, but he changed his mind and chased them. At the Red Sea, God parted the water so the Israelites could cross. The Egyptian army was drowned when the waters returned.
The wilderness journey. The Israelites wander in the desert. God provided manna, which is bread from heaven, quail and water from a rock at Mount Sinai. God gave Moses the 10 Commandments. The people often complained and disobeyed God, so they wandered for 10 years, for 40 years, excuse me. They wandered for 40 years.
And we also realize that Moses, growing up and also coming to a certain level of leadership, he had challenges as much as we learn that leadership has challenges. Moses led people, settled the disputes amongst the people, taught people God's law, which is what leaders in the house of God are approached with. He also faced many challenges, including rebelliousness from some of the Israelis because one act of disobedience, striking the rock instead of speaking to the rock as God told him to, then that the water would come. And now, because of that, Moses would not enter the promised land. He missed the promised land obedience, which was also influenced by the people that he was leading. So leadership has its own challenges, and Moses was no exception in that.
Moses' death, we see that in Deuteronomy chapter 34. Before the people entered Canaan, God showed Moses the land from a mountain. Moses died at the age of 120 years and was buried by God in an unknown place. Joshua succeeded him as the new leader.
So today again, welcome everyone. We're talking about a mother's son, which is Moses, and we're going to step out of character or step into character, and we're going to respond to some of these questions that we believe Moses may have asked his mothers. So, very first thing that comes up is two mothers, one son. What does that sound like, you guys? Two mothers, one son. Conflict, peace, or what? How do you think that worked?
Hey, I remember there used to be a song that says you can never have too much love. So when I think about a mom, I mean, it's a double blessing to have two moms. I think as long as they got along or things worked out. But in this case, I think Moses was doubly blessed.
Okay, all right, sounds good. So, first question, Mother, when you put me in the basket, you know what, Sabata? Read the questions for us today.
I think you can go ahead, Joyce, because I'm not seeing the slide. I think go ahead.
Oh, you can't see the slide?
Okay.
I can see the slide.
Can you see it now?
I won't see it because of the device.
Okay, all right. So, the question is this, Mother, when you put me in the basket, did you really believe that I would be saved? So, how do we believe that Yohadet, Moses' biological mother, would answer that question? Mother, when you put me in the basket, did you really believe that I would be saved?
Well, I believe she really did understand and had a knowing in her heart that he would be saved because after all, she had hidden him for 3 months. They were supposed to come and kill all the babies, but she was brave enough to hide him from 3 months, knowing that if they caught them, then she probably could have been hurt as well as the baby killed.
Yeah, and I think at this point in time when she did that, I think that's the point in time where the Lord would like for all of his children to be. She placed her trust 100% in the Lord.
Yeah,
That's when she totally had to surrender. She had to let go of everything that she could possibly do in her own strength and say, Lord, it's in your hands now. And that's how God wants us to live our life anyway, right?
that's right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, I believe she had all her faith laid in God and trusting in God. Remember, it was just not only Moses, but putting also Moses' sister to play around and look if there's anything that's going to happen. It shows the level of faith, like believing that God will protect both of them. That was a great faith from her mother. Yes, I believe Moses' mother would say, yes, I trusted God that far, that God preserved your life. If Moses, God made that they must not destroy you at the point of birth. then God would surely protect you even against the alligators.
Yes, it's like the mother, Moses' mother, you had it, that she knew that this was something special about this child, and she just wasn't going to put it to death. She wasn't going to have it killed. And that's a mother's heart gives her that, what, intuition, they say, that women
That's right.
have. She
That's
just
right.
knew, no, not this one, not this one. So I think that was very courageous of her. So now we're seeing Pharaoh's daughter, and it says, why did you decide, and this is Moses asking this question, why did you decide to save a Hebrew baby despite your father's decree? How do you think Pharaoh's daughter would have responded to that question?
Well, I think because she had a compassion for a child and she had love in her heart. She maybe at one point wanted to be a mom herself, but maybe that hadn't happened. And now here's an opportunity. It's a life. Life is precious, and I think the whole situation just touched her heart, and she knew she had to act. And she also knew that if she didn't, a life would be lost. So she had compassion and
Wow.
love for him without even knowing him.
Okay. So what
Yeah,
about
that's
this?
that's
Oh, go ahead, Sabata.
that's very true. To support that, I would say it's definitely, she would say, I didn't know, but I had this love, and I actually cared for this baby and the future of Egypt. I saw the power, but that's what she would say, because must it's with mothers like that. It's in nature of the mother, the sixth sense that mothers has, that like that they say, the intuition that mothers wouldn't even like to see somebody hungry. They will make plans.
Oh,
It was a
going
motherly
to that,
love.
the mothers are nutrients, huh?
That's right.
Yeah, or nurturing. They're
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
nurturing. Oh my goodness. Yes, I agree. I agree. So, mother, did Pharaoh ever discover the truth? If so, were you afraid? I think that Pharaoh's daughter, had to tell her father that she had Moses. It would have been very hard for her to hide him, especially as he got older and older and older. And the father knew that his daughter wasn't pregnant, and Moses did not look like an Egyptian. So I think that she told her father, and I guess just kind of what behooves me is, he still allowed her to keep this Hebrew boy in spite of the decree that he put out there, which shows again his love for his daughter
Right.
and for her happiness.
Absolutely. And daughters have favor. And that was her dad, just like our Heavenly Father favors us and cares for us and will do whatever would make us happy. So uh, I think Pharaoh had to kind of bow his knee to that one and let her keep the baby
You
again
think she
because
did
of his
those?
love for his daughter.
You think she did those great big crocodile tears? Oh, Daddy, please don't kill him.
That's right.
That's right.
It worked. It worked.
Does that work, Sabata? Your father? Does that work
Yeah,
when the
yeah,
girls do that?
it does. It does.
It does. It does. Okay. Yeah, so I think Pharaoh knew, and his love for his daughter was greater than putting the Hebrew boy to death. I guess he thought, I guess I can spare one life. But it
Yeah,
was the life that he spared, and he didn't know. It was the one he really he was looking for, and that's the life that he spared. Isn't that is
that's right.
interesting? He put
Yeah,
that decree out specifically for the one that was going to be sent. And the one that was going to be sent came right up into his house. And he raised him and fed him.
awesome.
Okay, let's go to the next slide, you guys. So this is Moses again asking his mothers this question, Pharaoh's daughter. What was it like raising me among Egyptians? And we see him when he's a little boy taking his first steps, and we see him as a young boy where his mother's teaching him. And then the last picture shows us where he's standing before the king. So, what was it like raising me among Egyptians?
I think a lot of things probably were natural, growing up baby kind of things, young man kind of things, and what have you. But then again, because he was not Egyptian, he looked different. Maybe he was teased a little bit by the kids. He was probably protected by his family, his royal family, and
Mm-hmm.
given special privileges. And he was exceptional, and I think it probably showed when he was young, and he really needed the covering of his mom and the king.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he was mama's boy. Mama's boy. He was mama's son.
I
I
think
I
you're
I,
right,
I think
Zapata. Now that I think he was a mama's boy too. I think I can see her now making sure nothing happens to him. And
That's
yeah,
right.
he was a mama's
yeah,
boy. He was, because
yeah.
I don't think it ever mentioned that she ever had other children in the Bible.
That's
Do you
right.
guys recall?
Not that
Yeah,
I
mama's boy.
remember. That's right.
Mama's boy. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's go to the next one. So this is Yohadid, Moses' biological mother. And the first picture it shows the mother walking away to take him to be nursed. And that question is, what thoughts did you have when you nursed me?
Well, I believe she had a great peace because she put him in that basket. His sister followed and realized he was going to end up with Pharaoh, but she got to see him on a regular basis and got to have that mother son connection, that baby mommy connection. And I think that gave her peace to know that he was okay. And I think the Bible said she got paid for nursing her own child.
Oh, interesting.
She got paid, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think she would say it was a great moment, a great connection, and an overall thanking God and glorifying God, because that was showing the hand of God upon the son. And as much as she may have had some fears if Pharaoh would find out for her own life, but her faith also grew in trusting in the Lord. And I believe in even the prayer life, raising a son, knowing that you are teaching him that the mother that you have is not really your mother. I am your mother. Maybe if she would experience some, maybe she get rebuked by the second mother, which is the princess. She might even say, "No, you are not my mother." So that required a very high faith, the level that this woman had nursing the baby. And I believe also the other one, Pharaoh's daughter, taking Moses over. It was a high risk that she was taking, but the excitement and the vision, the future of seeing this young boy learning and growing and replacing his father. I think also the maturity, because I believe one thing that I've learned about mothers is that once a girl gets a child, that girl grows up mentally, socially, she becomes strong. I believe
Right.
she was proud of raising a son because she matured herself before her time, and I think her daddy was happy with that. Yeah.
All right. And in the second picture on the screen, it says, "Were you afraid when you had to return me to Pharaoh's daughter?" And we can see the soldiers in the background and her kind of hugging the baby next to her. And I thought about that each time she had to return the child. I'm sure she had thoughts, that he's going back, but she was comforted by the fact that every time he returned, that he seemed to be well kept
Yes.
and cared for. But I was thinking about that last time, that last nursing that she had to release him, and she knew he would not be coming back for any more times to be nursed. I think that was maybe the second stage of her surrender. She had to surrender him at first to put him in the water. And then to be blessed to have him come back was just such a blessing. And here she had to surrender him again. But I think in this surrender, she had more peace. She had more peace because she knew, one, that he was alive, and she knew, two, that he was being well taken care of. But of course, I think as a mother, she wondered what would become of him, living in the palace, living with the king, and knowing that she would not ever see him again. So she still had that second surrender. And I think, maybe this time she may not have cried as hard as she did the first time when she put him in the water.
And I think you're absolutely right. And I think by this time also, God has probably given her a peace that that child is divinely protected and that he was special in many ways. She maybe didn't know his whole future, but she could see that he was spared from the sword for 3 months, lived in Pharaoh's house, was taken care of. She got to see him on a regular basis and raise him, and that imprinting and that mother-son bond was developed. So I think all of those things gave her the courage and a knowing that he would be okay.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go to the next slide. Sabata, do you have something you wanted to share?
No, I'm good. You
Okay.
covered all that I had. Yeah.
Okay, so the next slide is he's asking both of his mothers, did either of you ever resent the other? Oh, I want to say, yeah, there was some jealousy there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
some jealousy there. First of all, even though you had it, put them in the water. She had a little jealous. I think she had a little envy, not to the point to where she hated the other mother, but little envious in the sense to where she knew this mother would get the opportunity to see him grow up, and she will miss out on those moments. So I can see her being a little envious of this, and I can see Pharaoh's daughter being a little envious too, that a mother births such a beautiful baby, like, and then afraid that maybe one day the mother would come and take the child back. What
Mm-hmm.
if she comes? What
Yeah.
if she steals him? What if someone finds out that she finds out that this is her son? I think, those things went through, perhaps her mind as well, Pharaoh's daughter. What you
And
guys
this,
think?
well, this also reminds me of that proverb or the saying with Solomon when the two moms came and they both had babies, and the one lady killed her baby accidentally, we think, and then she tried to claim the other lady's baby as hers. And Solomon said,
Yes.
"Okay, this is how we'll solve this. We'll just cut the baby in two and give you each half." The real mother said, "Oh no." And that was a mother's love. She wanted to see him alive and well, and she was willing to give up her part for his life. That kind of reminds me of this situation.
Yeah, but I don't think that either one of them, yes, I agree with you. It reminds me of the two mothers there too. But I think with this situation was it has that twist to where they both love Moses. So
Yes,
I
they
think
did.
both of their response would have been, no, just give it to the other.
Yes, yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's
Absolutely.
a very good analogy. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that would have but it happened unless if there was an influence from the pharaohs from pharaoh to say rather everybody loses this child, but from the mother's love and the bond, because I believe that Moses bonded with both the mothers because they loved him and he loved them as well, although he knew his roots and he never left his roots based on his the mother that gave him birth that taught him that.
Well, yeah, well, he always knew he was different. And he
Yes.
had to know he was a Hebrew because when we gave the summary, we even talked about here in our pictures, he ended up killing an Egyptian because you know of the way that he was treating the Hebrews. So
That's
he
right.
knew his nationality. That was even, I guess you couldn't help but tell that he was a Hebrew.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. So let's do the last question. It says, what were your thoughts when you learned that I had killed the Egyptian? There it is. That's the question I was thinking about when I answered.
Mm-hmm.
So Moses is asking both of his mothers, what were your thoughts when you learned that I had killed the Egyptian? What do you think was Pharaoh's daughter's thoughts when she learned that the son she had raised had killed an Egyptian?
Yeah. I think it brought great sorrow and sadness, and they know that Pharaoh would probably strike out against Hebrews. Number one, he was trying to kill them and overwork them, and that was not kind to them. And I think they maybe even feared for his life. Again, knowing maybe he had a little bit of an edge because he had been raised in the palace, but they really, it was a very serious situation, and I'm sure that their hearts were hurting because they had saved him from death, and here he took a life. They saved his life, and he had taken a life.
Yeah, I think it brought shame to Pharaoh's daughter, in a sense to where her father allowed her to raise his Hebrew in the palace, and then here he, in her eyes probably, and even the king's eyes, betrayed them.
Yes,
After all they did, he betrayed them. So I think it brought shame upon the palace, gave a bad name, a bad reputation to Pharaoh's family.
Yeah, I think
yes,
she would say also she had a great sorrow and a great regret, given the possibility that for her to convince Pharaoh to actually adopt the child, it may have been come with difficulty, or it may have come with a sacrifice. Now, the Pharaoh's daughter realizing that that sacrifice now has become pain may have caused great frustration and pain. And I think on the other side, on his real mother, it it could have brought a great fear for his son and also for the whole nation, and that would be a frustration on both sides, but in different levels with different views.
yeah,
I agree. I
yes.
agree. What about Yohadid? What do you think that she thought when she heard, the biological mother of Moses, when she heard that he had killed the Egyptian?
I think fear would have dropped in, a very great fear for the nation, and and not only for his son. I think the first thing would be, now my son is dead, because that was the obvious case, and thinking
Oh,
that now there comes the pain to the whole nation, and also her thinking that now the very same nation that she belongs to will be turning their backs against her, to say the whole family now has to be banished, or the whole family has to be killed, because people has a tendency of applauding when things favor us, but when things put us at risk, we turn our backs and becomes the enemy to the people involved in that, even though we gained favor when they were in a position of power. So I think that frustration and that pain, that sorrow, would have covered her. And that's what she would say to Moses, and say, Moses, I had all this frustration. I felt like the road ends here. And
yeah, I
then
think she
just,
probably would have said what was thinking to herself, Moses, everything had worked itself out. You
uh,
were saved from being killed. How
Yeah,
did you come back to the same predicament again in
yeah,
life? But God is so wonderful that it could also very well be to where the Lord let her know that she has set Moses apart for a great task at hand. And God has a way of bringing us peace in situations, and it could very well be to what God let her know he's safe. He's okay. He's
yes,
okay. And I could just hear her, when the Lord just kind of let her know that he was okay, just that sigh of relief, like, oh my goodness, Moses, but I think God gave her peace in it eventually, but just initially, she could very well have just been shocked, like, oh no, not again.
and and I see this also as a turning point. Of course, Moses, as a grown man, knew right from wrong, and he knew that his people were not being treated well, even though he was raised as an Egyptian. So at that point, it's like, am I an Egyptian, and will I allow this to happen, or do I stand up for my people? And I think he had a real big decision to make, and he knew it was not right to kill because he had this righteous indignation, as they say, against what he saw, and he could no longer take it. And he knew that he would be in peril, so he chose to, yeah, he was hoping that he would alleviate some of the terror and the hardship that Hebrews were experiencing while in captivity. So
And
he was in a tough place either way.
but then it also shows how God worked it out, how God used his bad for his good. And it
Yes,
turned out to where he became, the like savior of Israel, being used of the Lord to release the Israelites so that they could be free. And that was his calling, that was his destiny. And so many times we go through things in life not understanding why the challenge, why the difficulty, why so much pain, but God is preparing us for the next step in our life, where he was preparing Moses at the same time. He killed the Egyptian, he had to run, but when he had to go back and face them, God had given him strength to go back and face them and all that he had been through, but he had to go through something in order to take the next step. Because when
right,
he went back, his life was definitely ready to be over. He knew, okay, he had to put his trust in the Lord just as much as his mother had to surrender and put her trust in the Lord. But thank
right.
you everyone for joining us today. Again, that's our version of a mother's son for Moses. We'll see you next week. Thank you.